I just watched an interview by the police chief, I think that's his title, or police commissioner. I don't really know what the appropriate title it is, but basically one of the bosses of police force in Sydney gave an interview on one of the news channels here in Australia, and he basically went along the lines of saying that if you go to the protest tomorrow, there's a big protest being planned tomorrow in Sydney, big crowds expected, and he basically said if you come out, we're going to be, enforcing the no greater than 10 people in one place, restrictions, the COVID-19 restrictions. And he basically said, we will be enforcing this. Do not come out and protest. This is not the time. You're putting public health safety at risk. And so I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, how do you, it's a tough issue. I don't think I've ever seen another time in my life, at least, where there's been such two major issues in the world at the same time. It almost feels like if you want to support the Black Lives Matter movement, you can't also support the COVID-19 restrictions. It's all one or the other. And I clicked on the comments and I read through the comments of this video that was like 40 minutes ago, basically. Very, very fresh video. And I read some of the comments. There wasn't too many comments, but some of the people said basically, they're threatening us. There's no way they're going to be able to control such a large gathering. Come out, people, like comments kind of along those lines. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, what a mess this is right now. My gut feeling is, don't go out and protest because of COVID-19. If we have another big wave, it's going to be a public health disaster if we have another outbreak. Australia's done quite well. Like, we've flattened the curve in Adelaide. I think there's been like one case in the last 2-3 weeks or something like that. So it's basically a non-event. The restrictions have been quite severe. People have been following them quite well. Only the essential kind of businesses have been running. I work in a hospital, obviously, so I've been working, but we've done a really good job. And so this Black Lives movement protest is threatening to reverse all of this. So I really hope that nothing comes of it, as in people go out and protest and there's no major community transmissions. But it would be silly to take the risk, right? Like, you don't want to mess with COVID-19. It's taking young lives, it's taking old lives, it's taking children's lives. Initially, it was thought that COVID-19 was just a threat to kind of like the people with comorbidities and people with pre-existing conditions. But there's been many reports of people like in their 30s dying of COVID-19 with no pre-existing conditions. Doctors, nurses, things of this nature across the world. So it's very frightening. It's a very deadly, virus, and we can't drop the ball now. I truly think we should take care of COVID-19 first, and then go ahead and do the protest for the Black Lives Matter movement. That's just the way I feel right now. It's just an awkward time. I'm pro for both, but you have to pick one. And right now, the most important thing happening in the world is the COVID-19 thing. So I don't know what you guys have to say about this as well, but I can't believe that all these protests have been happening across America as well. People are wearing masks, but a lot of these people weren't wearing masks, and very close proximities to each other, and just acting like there is no COVID-19 pandemic happening right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to America and the numbers. Community transmission numbers. You would hate to see a second wave that's even worse than the first wave. So it's a shitty situation right now, and it's going to be interesting tomorrow to see what happens in Sydney. Like, from everything that I've heard, it's going to be a very, very big protest. There's going to be a large showing. It's happening in the middle of the city, in the middle of the CBD. And it's going to be interesting to see how the police reacts, right? Like, if the police reacts, how they're going to be controlling the crowds of this magnitude. I know in America, National Guard was called in, the Army was called in. I don't think the Australian police has organized this. I don't know to what extent, they mean when the commissioner said we have a lot of resources at hand. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, It's just a horrible time. On another note, another squat day for me. I feel maybe 90%, and I am thinking about going full bonkers today and putting in a normal training session where I put in the volume and I do all sorts of things. But like I've said in one of the previous videos, I've been caught out before where I've come back to training too soon and I've hammered my body real hard after like a 2-week break, and then I've had a second wave. Speaking about second waves, I've had a second wave of feeling shit again, and then ends up being a month of training. So I'm gonna try and be smart here. I'm gonna try and just, do as minimal as I can get away with. So I'll just basically do front squats. Once I hit the front squat kind of max, I'll transition into back squat and back squat from then on. And then I don't know what I hit today. Like I feel okay, but I'm always kind of back in my mind. My body is not 100%. My immune system is not back to normal. I still have kind of like a sore throat. You guys can hear me. I'm not sounding like my normal self. So, it's like I just wonder to myself right now, like if I completely didn't squat at all through this sickness, if my recovery would have been better. All having that said, like I haven't squatted. I've squatted, but I haven't trained. As in, like, I haven't pushed my body in any way. Like squatting up to 100 kilos is a non event for me. Like no sweat, no respiration rate increase, no muscle sore, nothing's happened. But on the different side of the same coin, they say that, when people get sick, they just kind of lock themselves inside the house and just watch TV, play video games, and just don't go outside at all. And we know that sunlight is very, very important for the immune system. Vitamin D, and just fresh air and moving, getting the blood kind of circulating around the body. So bed rest is not essentially always the best thing for you. If you're able to get up out of bed and you're able to walk around and do stuff. Obviously, don't completely kill yourself while you're doing it. So that was kind of my approach. Like the other day, it was quite sunny, kind of in the afternoon, and I went outside in the backyard, took my top off, tried to soak in as much sunlight as I could. And that was kind of cool. But I know previously, like in my life, when I've gotten sick with viruses and colds and whatever, I've always kind of just retreated back into the house and just read a book or watched TV or play video games or whatever the hell I did. That can't be good, man. You can't be good to do that. So anyway, let me get this squat session in again. Another boring freaking session. But at least this week or and a half has given me an opportunity to kind of concentrate on other things. Like I've spoken to you guys about what's happening in the world and some of the controversies that have happened. So that's kind of cool. Like, I just wonder if I didn't have the sickness, whether I never would have kind of taken the opportunity to talk about something other than lifting and training. So anyway, let's get to squatting. And hopefully, is that all right? Let's have a look. This thing's moving. All right. Alright, so like I said, to start with the front squat and do the back squat afterwards. I haven't done any upper body work at all during this deload. I've done absolutely nothing other than the front squat and the back squat. So I feel as though I'm wasting away in my upper body. It's gonna be interesting when my bench press falls after this deload. Because this deload is not your normal deload, it's a sickness deload. So, usually people come out of the deload stronger. I doubt I'm gonna come out stronger out of the deload because of this sickness. I felt like I've lost a couple of kilos as well. I was sitting around 94, 95 kilos. I think I'm around 93, 92. The thing with me is when I get sick, and the most important thing, if I don't train, I'll lose all my appetite. Like I am a skinny, scrawny guy underneath all of this. Like if I don't train, I have no appetite and I just go back to that skinny, scrawny kind of figure. So I think a lot of you guys, if you don't train, you put on weight. For me, it's the opposite. If I don't train, I just get skinny. I lose all my muscle mass and I lose my appetite and I don't eat. I eat like once a day. So that's me. I know you guys are gonna hate me for saying that, but I'm that guy. I've got the skinny jeans. Anyway, let's get some squatting in. So usually as you guys know, I usually hit the bar for 20, then I go to 40 kilos for 20, 60 kilos for 20, and then I go 80 kilos for 10. Although I have previously hit it for 20 as well. And then 100 for 10, and then 120 for 5, and then I kind of just go singles from there on. That's the usual volume that I do on a normal squat day. But with this virus thing that I'm dealing with, which is not COVID-19 because I've had the swab, it's more like a cold looking thing. I've just basically done very minimal work. That was 10 for just with the bar. And even that's now kind of more than I've done during this deload. So it's not fun, but I don't know. I'm one of those guys that loves training, man. Like I just love fucking, going out and training. A lot of you guys have kind of been like, oh, you're crazy. How can you get bored with training? I know Juggernaut Training Systems, they've done a video on squatting every day, and they're like, your training will get stale. You're gonna kind of hate your life. I love it, man. I actually love training. I'm not one of those guys who's just thinking about the trophy at the end or the goal at the end. I actually love the journey of training every day. I love feeling like an athlete. Messi, Ronaldo, Pirlo, like you name all the soccer players. I don't know why I'm talking about the soccer players, but all these guys, man, they train every day, man. Like they play every day, So this idea in powerlifting and bodybuilding that every time you come into the gym, you fucking just, bleed out of your nose, that's how you should be training every day. No, man, training is not about going balls to the wall every day. There's many different attributes in training. It's not just muscular endurance and peak strength. Those two are not the only attributes that we train as athletes. There's many other things. There's skill accumulation, there's technique, there's stretching, there's recovery, foam rolling, all this sort of crap. So there's multitude of things going on in training. And when I tell people who are not kind of as into training as me, they always go like, wow, why are you training every day? And I'm like, man, what am I supposed to do every day? What do you do every day? You watch a movie every day? You could watch a movie every day. So I want to squat every day. That's my thing. I love doing that. So, but people find it really weird that, it just goes to show you where they're coming from. They're coming from a different environment. Where if I was maybe talking to a Navy SEAL, if I'm talking to a Navy SEAL about what I'm doing, he's going to be like, man, you're a pussy, man. You're not doing enough work. So it's all about who you're around with, who you rub shoulders with. They say, the environment makes you. So I sometimes laugh when people tell me, why are you training every day? Like, it's a silly thing to do. But anyway, let's get this 60 for, let's say 5. When I read Matt Perryman's book, Squat Every Day, which is, I've said to people before, when I read that book, everything changed in terms of my training thoughts, how I looked at training, how I play in training there afterwards. Because, I was like, it was the first time that I heard in my life, you can squat every day? Like, that's a thing? Like, I never thought about this before reading that book. Man, it was a paradigm shift for me. And the biggest excitement that I got was, oh my God, I can squat every day. Like, I love squatting every day. I want to squat every day. But now that this guy is saying that people squat every day, that's unbelievable. Let me squat every day. And then I kind of, found out about the Bulgarians and Ivan Abajev and all this sort of stuff. And I started loving it. Like, these are my kind of people, man. These are the performance kind of guys. I like that sort of stuff. Coming from a basketball kind of background, I found it really, really strange when people started talking about, oh, you can only squat once a week kind of shit. I'm like, man, what do you mean? Like, it's like telling me I can only, practice free throws once a week. what does that even mean? Like, that's not a recipe for success. That was my brain coming from basketball. Like, it didn't make sense to me. If you want to get good at something, you do it every freaking day. Obviously, you don't do 10,000 freaking free throws. Your arm drops off. But that doesn't mean you don't do it. You don't shoot even one. So this concept of you can't squat every day, that's bullshit. We walk every day. We breathe every day. It's just the intensity and the volume that you're talking about. No, you can't do 10 sets of 10 at 80% every day. It's impossible to do that every day, right? We're not idiots. But if I said to you, do one set of five at 80% every single day, of course you could do that. Absolutely you could do that. If that's too hard, go 60%. Like when I first started doing this squat every day program, I did probably 1 month just worth of back off sets at 60%. And I think I did them even the triples or even, I don't know, it could have been fives. But I did a whole lot of easy reps, easy sets at 60%. It was easy, absolutely easy. I could do it every single day, and I did it every day. And it was my way of kind of reintroducing myself to, volume when I already have a high intensity. It's just easing yourself into it. It's like anything, man. It's absolutely anything, When I go on annual leave and I go back to work, I work in emergency as a nurse. I feel like I'm saying this freaking every time I make a video. But anyway, I spend 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks away from work, and I come back to work, and after the first day, my feet are killing me because the job is all about standing. You're basically standing. You don't have a lot of sitting positions. You're walking around a lot and whatever. And having 6 weeks off of work, the first time you come back, you're like, oh my God, my feet are killing me. It's because you've lost conditioning in your feet, in standing, basically. And so yeah, it's just about easing in. Whereas if I came back from my annual leave and I did, a 3-hour shift, just say, this can't happen in real life, but you come in, you do a 3-hour shift, a couple of days rest, you do a 5-hour shift, a couple of days rest, and then you end up doing an 8-hour shift. And there wouldn't be any soreness, right? Because you're slowly introducing a new stimulus to the system. Anyway. What am I going to do 80 for? I can do 80 for 20 on a really good day. Today's not one of those, so let me do this for 5 as well. Alright, that's 80. Let's put on 100. Even the weights are wet, frosty. We're in the start of the winter here in Australia. Last few days that I've gone to work, I leave work 6 o'clock, 6:15. I couldn't actually open the door properly because it was all frosted over. So it gets quite cold in Australia as well. The door ended up, happening, but the window definitely couldn't be opened until the car warmed up a bit. So hopefully this is me now. This is me done now in terms of having a cold. Hopefully I don't get sick again. I'm usually pretty resilient. It's just, I think the biggest thing with me is I like to train hard. And then it's usually the night shifts that screw me over. So I have on the day that I go on a night shift and the sessions in between the nights, I also put in a solid session there as well, and then obviously you don't sleep, you don't get good nutrition, and that kind of weighs me out a little bit. But if it wasn't for the night shifts, I think I'd be even more resilient, obviously, and I'd get sick even less. But anyway, 100 on the bar, Let's do this for 3, and we'll see how we go. Feeling not too bad today. Alright, that was alright. Oh man. Feels so good to train, man. I love it. Well, some of you guys might think to yourself, man, I don't want to train every day. Screw that. You know, that's fine. Like we all have, it's like a video game. You have sliders, you know, settings. You kind of slide your life settings wherever you want. You know, some people like to slide the training frequency all the way to left and once or twice, 3 times a week kind of thing. That for me, that slide is always to the right. I like training. Training for me has multiple benefits. It's not just about you know, physical effects. It's also the mental effects. Like I've said this in the past, but training does a lot of wonders for your mental health. It just regulates your hormones. That excessive tension energy that, you know, us young men have, the aggression is kind of leaked out of you. You know, you're much more I don't know what's the word, more placid, more calm, more relaxed. There's just less stress hormone in you. You know, because generally if you have a pretty good training kind of life, you know, the majority of time away from the gym is spent recovering, and that has a different cascade of hormonal kind of cascade happening. And so, you know, you're less likely to be angry and you know, emotional, reactive to different situations, your environment. So, you know, I work as an emergency nurse, I've already said it, and it can be quite hectic and stressful. We see a lot of bad shit, I guess. And the fact that I train every day, I kind of just, you know, have a rough shift and I see something I don't like seeing, some sad stories. I come in here and I just squat. And I usually feel quite good after it. Just kind of the tension, the bad energy kind of leaves me, and I kind of feel good about, you know, my position in life and whatever. But for people, for young men especially, that don't have a release, some sort of physical release, man, I think it's the wrong way to go about it. Now, if you're a dude that's got a kind of labor job, you're quite active physically. You're like digging, you're lifting, you're holding, you're carrying, like you're just doing something physical. Then you might not need kind of training, but for people that are doing jobs like mine, my job can have a physical component to it, but it's rarely. But office people, office workers who are just sitting on their ass all day, man, and just once they finish their job, they get up, walk 100, 200 meters, get to the car, turn the car on, sit in the car, drive home, get out of the car again, and then sit on a couch and spend a couple of hours there, and then go to sleep and then lay down. It's like, Jesus, man, like 80% of your, 80%, more than like 90% of your life is in you know, in a seated position, man. Damn, man. Those people are the ones that need to kind of do stuff, get out and just while we're on that topic, I don't think, you know, going for walks is enough. You know, going for a hike, that's something. But people go for walks down the beach, you know, and they call that exercise. That's not exercise, man. Like, just, that can't be exercise. You're not gonna build a body just from walking. Like, that's not any different to what you're doing every day anyway. And just because you spend a longer time walking, that's ineffective, man. What you need to do is do an exercise that you can't talk freely with your buddy next to you. You know, you need to be able to do an exercise where you're uncomfortable, you're sweating, you're huffing and puffing. Like that's the type of exercise. Like when I'm squatting, you know, a set of 20, I can't maintain a conversation with somebody. I'm working. So that type of exercise. It doesn't have to be weightlifting. It could be anything, man. It could absolutely be anything. Like I said, you could go hiking, you could play basketball, you could play soccer, you could do anything. Anything that's kind of invokes some sort of response in your system, disturbs the homeostasis, I guess. You don't want to do an exercise where you're just freaking talking to somebody and then they're like, oh yeah, it's, you know, my diet's not on point. It frustrates me when people are always looking for the silver bullet. People are always looking for the easy way out. What if I take this pill, or like, will this tire around my belly disappear? No, man, just do some damn work. Get uncomfortable a little bit. Work for it. 120. Was alright, so 140 it is. So 140 for the front squat seems to be like a minimum for me when I'm feeling healthy. I can hit 140 even on a bad day, so I can hit this probably even now, and then I just transition on to back squats basically, and we'll go from there. But yeah. Let's get to it right away. 140. Alright, I reckon I'll call it there for the front squats, so let me just hit a back squat now, and here we can get the back squats going. Oh man, one of the best things is when you hit 140 or hit your top front squat and then you immediately go back to the back squat with the same weight. Oh my God, it's so easy. It's so easy. Just that bit of a more kind of a tilt of your upper body, more of an angle of your upper body, just a little bit more posterior chain involvement. Just feels so much more stronger. The power of the glutes, man. That's a big muscle group. People don't understand how important glutes are. Glutes are basically, you could go as far as saying that if you see an athlete with massive ass glutes, like, I'm not talking about fat, I'm not talking about Kardashian kind of ass, I'm talking about muscle, just you can see development of the posterior chain. You know a couple things right away. Number one, that dude is explosive, he's strong. You know, he can ragdoll you basically. You know, what I'm thinking about now is some of those NFL players when they're wearing their uniform, those tights, and you know, fuck, some of these guys are just animals, man, animals. They look bad just before you even move. You know, So there's a couple of different things that you could basically look at an athlete and be like, a couple of different muscle groups. The first muscle group, like I said to you, is the glute, the posterior chain. If you see like well-developed hamstrings and glutes, you know that guy can pull. You know that guy is a deadlift beast and he can handle weight real easy. The other one is traps. When you see really developed traps, they usually go hand in hand with really good grip. You know, if you have a really strong grip, you'll probably have a really strong upper back as well. It's because you're probably carrying, you know, big loads and your arms are dangling off of your traps anyway. So it's kind of like a tandem 1-2 punch. So yeah, glutes, traps, and just forearm development. Like when you see somebody with big ass forearms, that's a strong dude usually. You know, you won't find too many guys with really strong forearms that are piss weak. That's what Pavel Tsatsouline used to say. I remember reading about this stuff. He used to say, when in doubt, train your grip and train your core. So if you've hit a plateau in your training and you don't know a way out, just always think to yourself, let's hit the core and let's hit the grip, because there's a term he uses called irradiation, which basically refers to this concept of firing the muscle so hard that there's radiation of that energy spilling over to other muscles. So if you have a really strong core and you can turn on your core really strong, then by the virtue of that contraction, your back also tightens up, your chest tightens up, like your whole organism tightens up. So if you have a really strong core and a strong grip, you're basically able to kind of like pull all the other weaker muscles along with you because it's such a dominant neurological kind of activation. All right, 160 back squat. All right, that's 160. Let's go 180. The worst part about training is holding back. Oh, it's the worst thing. But you gotta check your ego, man. The ego is just gonna ruin you. The ego is basically what injures you at the end of the day. Ego lifting. It's okay, suck it up. Be shit for today. Be shit. I'm gonna be shit today so I can fight tomorrow. If you let the ego take over you, you're like, no, we gotta do it today, and then you're gonna get injured. And we know that the athlete who stays away from injury the better ends up usually being the stronger guy anyway. Because, you know, when you're injured, you can't do jack shit. So the no ego guy over there is just training while you're being injured and while you're laying on your back. The no ego guy is training. All right, so 180 now. I think I paused on that 160 a little bit. I don't know why I did that. Sometimes I do that unintentionally. Like I just drop into that hole and it just, I don't time the bounce out of it, the stretch reflex well enough. Also, I really enjoy being in the hole because I remember times when I first started squatting, man, that hole was very difficult to get to, and I always kind of felt like, man, the day I developed the mobility to get into that hole properly, I'm just gonna sit there all day. All right, let's 180, see how this moves. That's 180, let's go 185. The hardest thing about doing these one-take videos where I don't stop the video at all is that I don't have the opportunity to look back at the video and see how the lift went. Usually, like I've said in the past many times, how I feel is a lot different to how it looks. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys have the same experience. But sometimes I'm like, damn, that moves so slow. Like I have to call the quits there. Like I'm not gonna go up in weight. And then I just go look at the video and I'm like, hell is this, man? Like, moved so easily. So if I had a coach, and this is where the coaching aspect comes in, this is why coaches are so valuable, because they see from that external point, they see, you know, the movement, the technique, the breakdown, and, you know, they can advise the athlete, you know, really well on how it all went. Hopefully 185 moves well. Somebody was telling me as well that it's not a good idea to squat every day because the joints will fall apart, and you know, it's a young man's game to be doing this sort of stuff. But I'm telling you guys, like I'm not lying. There's nothing for me to sell here. Like I'm not doing this because I'm trying to make a buck. If somebody wanted my coaching, I don't have anything to offer you except squat every day, man. And when you feel like increasing the weight, increase the weight. There's nothing to it, man. There's no secret here. So when I say this sort of shit, like I don't want you to think that I'm trying to sell you something. I'm not. I don't give a crap about that. But the issue about joint pain and ligaments and wearing down and all of that, I honestly can tell you that my knees have felt amazing in these 190 odd days of squatting. No pain ever. Even though I'm going ass to grass, this idea that you're going to snap your shit up because you're going ass to grass, this is not the case. And I know studies out there say this, that, the other, and in this case, studies do say that there's more shearing forces when your knee is 90 degrees. When you kind of, you know, going down and you stop at 90 degrees and you reverse that motion at 90 degrees of the knee joint. That is the worst possible point that you should be reversing the movement. There's a lot of shearing forces there, and studies have shown that going all the way down allows you kind of to put your hamstring onto the calf and kind of like alleviate some of that shearing force. In fact, there's no shearing force on the knee. I know studies say one thing, but studies, in my opinion, are always backdated, as in a really good study is usually far behind what reality is today. So there's something to be said about knowing, experiencing, and studying what's happening now without having like a massive research article to back you up. So if something's making sense and you're feeling really good about something, don't wait for a research article to come out for you to say, oh yeah, now it's legit. No, you know, with sporting science, there's two arms here. There's the coaching experience and the athlete experience, and then there's the lab experience, where people are kind of like catching up to the athletes and trying to put it together in a, you know, in a solid paper where they can kind of like have evidence for things. Trust your gut. If it feels good, continue with it. Don't be like, oh no, I don't have a research article to say that this is the way to go. I've gone to uni, I've become a nurse, I've specialized in ED nursing, you know. I appreciate research and I appreciate evidence, but it's not everything when it comes to life, you know, as a whole. You don't need an article to basically send you in the right direction. You can experience life at first hand and make a call. All right, 185. Let's see how this bad boy moves. That kind of felt alright as well. There was a point there where I felt to kind of slow down, but whatever. 185 is good enough for me for today. Yeah, another day, another squatting session. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow I get back to my normal self. Like I said to you guys, I'm on 90-95%, but I don't want to do this, you know, all too soon and cost myself another week of sickness. So if you guys made it to the end of the video, thank you guys. You must really enjoy me talking and training. Other than that, I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another session. Cheers, guys.